So here's where we left off at the end of last class. We had all the white checkers rendering and the black checkers weren't. And your assignment was to go home and render the black checkers. Okay. So let's see if we can get a good feel for where we're at and how to move forward from there. So jumping back over here, we got board HTML opened, and that's obviously not going to be where we're working. This switch color method, when we get done with, we're actually probably going to get rid of that. In fact, I bet if I right click on here and I say find usages, they probably won't be able to find any usages of it. Oh, toggle. Yeah, toggle does switch, but what actually calls toggle? Oh, you still do have the black cells toggling checkers, which I don't think we want at this point. Let me see. Will you toggle? Oh, yeah, that's not what we want. So we are going to get rid of that, because what we want is we want to put the checkers down and actually move that element around. Okay, so when I come in here and I select this particular checker, I don't want to change it from colors and have switch what's here from nothing to black to white. What I want to do is actually take this element, that checker element, from where it is and move it to somewhere else. So then in these two middle rows, there won't actually be any checkers. Okay, not that there'll be invisible checkers, there won't be any there. Okay, y'all tracking, right? And if we think about this in the use case of chess, right? Let's say we want to take this and move on to chess, right? How many? There's what, 9 different types of pieces in chess, and then there are 2 colors. So that would be, if I, yeah, you'd be clicking through 18, and then you'd be like, oh crap, I just missed it. Am I supposed to say crap on the video? Like, don't play that for your parents.
Six different pieces, but yeah.
So but you would, like, it would not work. So that's the idea, is we want to actually move that element and not change it to a fundamentally different thing. Okay, so that toggle method should no longer be there. So I'm going to go ahead and comment that out, save this, and go ahead and refresh this, and let's see what we're looking at. So now if I click on, nothing happens when I'm clicking here. Okay, so that's good. But I am calling render checkers, not redder checkers. But redder checkers would be good if you were playing black and red. You'd need blacker checkers too, though, just to be fair. So here's render checkers, and what render checkers is doing, and if I look in my console output over here, I'll see, I'm going to move this over to the side of the screen, over here, move that over to the side of the screen, and if I look at the console output, I can see it's calling rendering checkers, and here's my output right here, where I'm line 53, where I'm printing out rendering checkers, and then you see I print all these objects out. Okay, and what that object is here, I'm doing a console.log, and I'm logging out the checker itself. Okay, these log statements are so handy. Okay, and remember, in JavaScript, if you just log an object like this, if you do console.log and you just put the object, you don't put it like in quotes or use string interpolation, then it's going to output, it'll look like object, 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 which seems like it's not very useful, but then when you can actually click this little expand and you can see the fields inside of it. And I can even go inside and inside and inside, so there's a lot there. But I really just care about the top level stuff. So specifically, this is a checker that is white, and it's in row 1, cell 2, this guy right here. Okay, and the next one I see is row 1, cell 4, that guy right there. Okay, so let's go back over here. So you can see I'm iterating through all these checkers, and checkers is right here. Okay, I define checkers up at the top. Row 1, cell 2, color white. Row, all the way down, and I'm just iterating over that list, and I'm saying, hey, go grab that cell, row 1, cell 2, and render a checker with that color. Okay, make sense? Okay, so now if what would I need to do then if I want to start adding black checkers? Anybody?
Well, what I did was I put in, like, at the top, where you had like the row cell color. Just add more of those, except have like the row be like 6, 7, and 8, and the color be black, and the right cell numbers. And stuff.
So this thing, exactly right. Good job, Caleb. This
Good.
thing right here, this checkers, this is what we call an array. Okay, an array is a fancy. It's a word that computer programmers use. That means list, but they use it so that they sound smart. That's really about the only reason. No, it's an array, but you can just think it's a list. Okay, a comma-separated list of objects. Okay, and each object looks the same, but they don't have to look the same. Okay, in fact, if I wanted to, I could put bacon in this list. All right, I spelled bacon wrong. I spelled Bannock or something like that. That's just weird. So if I run this, I'm probably going to get an exception. Right. So it does everything it needs to do. It says, hey, I don't know what to do with bacon. But you see that it printed out bacon down there at the bottom? Because it was just going through, and it was printing out the checker. In this case, we just took the string bacon, and we handed, and it's like, right? It should be like, nom, 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 you know.
I mean,
So-
it did eat it and spit it out.
Yeah, so here we go. I'll tell you what.
Why
Like,
did it spit it out?
Here-
should have just kept it.
here we go. We could say if checker equals, oh, am I using double quotes or single quotes? Not that it really matters here. Equals bacon
Bonk.
console.log num 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 num
That sounds like
And
a bunch of
then-
numbers.
else
4 numbers eating.
All right, let's see if that works. This is useful.
It's very constructive.
Did I not save it?
No, you spelled bacon wrong.
What? What?
Yeah.
Man, what is going on?
See, that's my
You-
problem. I can't spell.
That's why it's nice to have so many people watching you code.
Let it
There you go. It renders all the checkers and then it says num 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 num. So, all right. Cool
It
beans.
did eat the bacon.
It did eat the bacon. All right, so let's undo all of that jazz. So here's a nice thing about WebStorm, if you happen to be using WebStorm, but there's similar features in Visual Studio Code, I'm sure. I can see that this section of code has been modified since the last time I committed it. And I can just like revert. In other words, go back to where this was last time I committed this code. So it's a handy feature. Or you can just hit Control-Z, which is your friend. Okay? All right, so here you were saying just add some more rows, but make it rows 6, 7, and 8 and make them black, right?
Yes.
So, and I would agree with that. So here we have row 6, and it's 6, 1. Yeah. Cell 1, color black. All right, see how that does? There we go, right?
Yay.
Okay, we can continue this
It's a
process.
really unfair matchup.
I'm gonna lose.
Ollie,
Right.
That's okay, because it's pretty fair right now because clicking on things doesn't actually do anything. So I think
It looks unfair.
we'll be okay for the moment. So let's go through
It'd be really
and
impressive if you won that game. If you were black.
yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So there should be 24. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. 7, 7, 7, 7, 8, 8, 8, 8, and 7 should be. These are odd.
Put them all in the first cell.
So 1, 3, 5, and 7. 2, 4, 6, 8. 1, 3, 5, 7, and save that. Refresh our screen. So I really didn't give you a lot of homework, okay? Assuming that you were copying along, which probably is very difficult to do. The message port closed before response was received. Interesting. Don't even know what that means. But maybe it means I should open up another one of these. A fresh one. Get rid of that one. Hit F12. Okay. No, same thing. We'll figure that out later. So now we're seeing 24 different objects, right? Come through. And then the next thing that we want to do is we want to be able to move these guys. Now, remember, if you go to the GitHub repository, like the actual answers are there. So you can always look at that. Personally, though, I am going to look at some of the changes that I have in here. Because here's where I added all the JSON model stuff. So, yeah, you can see I'm going to be removing that selected checker stuff. But in checkers.js, is there a move checker? So when we select a checker, what do we want to do?
Check against the wall.
So render row, render cell, render checkers. Render that checker. Is it parity? I don't know that we need those anymore. Yeah, so we need a new click handler. Because right now, in board.js, here's our click handler, right? And it's the toggle method, okay? But now we're going to do something a little bit different, and we are going to actually select a checker, and then we'll maintain that checker is moved, right? And it actually gets, if you think about it, it gets significantly more complicated when we start moving items around, because how do we remove one from the board, right?
You take an eraser.
Well, you actually have to create new locations. Right now, if we wanted to remove a checker from the board using the just switch methodology, we would just switch it to invisible, and that would remove it from the board. Okay, but now if we actually want to take a checker, we have to put that thing somewhere. Okay, because and we also it has to be somewhere that we can't just delete it, because what if it was a mistake? It needs to be somewhere where the user can actually get it and put it back on the board if they made a mistake. Does that make sense? And so we're going to add some locations on the top and the bottom of the board to represent that. So let me go over here and look in board.html, JSON model. There's board.js. Yeah, so we added this method move, and we also have the notion of selecting a checker now, right? Because I have to remember let's talk through what our behavior is going to be. Like, in order to actually move this, I want to click this cell and then click this cell and have it move. But that means I have to remember what cell I clicked. That makes sense? Okay, and I might even want to indicate it to the user that that cell was clicked. Okay, so let's go back and add in the this is just in template.js right now. Let's add a select method in here. I say method because I'm a Java guy, but I really should say function because this is JavaScript. So we're going to add this function called select. Okay, this looks wrong. All right, so we're going to select a checker, and we are going to pass it the checker that we're selecting. Okay. And then up here, just as a data object, we're going to have selected checker. Okay? And to start with, that's just going to be equal to nothing. Okay? So, in fact, we can even say gets undefined. Now, that is strictly unnecessary, what I just did. Right? If I just declared var selected checker, right? Because I didn't define it, it is undefined. Right? The reason I did that was to communicate to whoever reads this after me, including myself, that I meant for it to be undefined, right? Without me having to think, where am I using that later on, right? Like I can look and I say, oh, I deliberately set that. It's not that I forgot to set that to something. I deliberately defined it as undefined. Does that make sense? So sometimes you'll do something that doesn't need to be doing just for the purposes of communicating something. It's kind of like in a maybe a persuasive essay, you might repeat yourself for emphasis. Obviously, you don't want to do it too much, right? But it's that sort of a literary technique. It wasn't necessary for the communication, but the purpose was emphasis, and that's what we're doing here, is to emphasize why we're doing that. Okay. All right. So we have a variable up there called selected checker, and here we're just right now saying we're going to say add a console log in here. It really for right now should be the first thing that you guys do. Selecting checker.
Excuse me.
Oh, doggone it, I've been writing too much Java. Using those double quoteses. All right, selecting checker, and then I'll put checker. Okay, which is this one that got passed in here. Okay, and that's all I'm going to do for right now. And then let's go over to, now that doesn't do anything though, right? If I just save that, I go over here, refresh. That's not actually going to do anything because I haven't told it when it should happen. Right? I'm clicking on here. I'm not seeing anything. Okay? How do I tell the browser when it should select a checker? Or when should I select a checker? When it gets clicked on, right? And so how do I say when someone clicks on this?
You could do something with like on click.
Yep, I could put it in the HTML, on click, do such and such. What else could I do? I did it before, right? Remember when I did it to switch the color? The toggle method? How do we do that? Let's take a look.
Starts with J, that's with query.
Look over here. Yeah, starts with J and ends with query. So if you remember,
jQuery.
we use jQuery first
Good job. How did you
to
get that?
find. Remember the way jQuery works. First, you find an element. So I'm finding every element, or an element or elements. In this case, I'm finding every element that is a black cell, and I'm adding a click handler to it. Okay. So let's go ahead and do that. Right. So instead of the click handler being toggle, the click handler is now going to be what? What's that? Select checker, right? And this is something, this is a very, very easy mistake to make because a lot of times it'll autocomplete for you. If I write this, okay, with these two parentheses after that, it's going to execute select checker with nothing in it.
It's gonna kill them with nothing in it.
It will run. Yes, it will run the method select checker with nothing passed in, and it will take the result of running that method and make that the click handler, which will be nothing. It's not going to actually do, so it's going to basically set the click handler to nothing. Okay, so what I actually want to do is I just want to put the name. Okay, if I put the parentheses, it means run this right now. Inside of these other parentheses, run it and take the result of this run and make it the click handler. Instead, I'm saying, hey, here's the label, here's the name of the function that I want to handle clicks. Does that make sense? Okay. Very, very, very easy mistake to make, and one I have made way more than once. Okay, and really hard to see. All right, so we said, hey, the click handler is select checker. So let's go see. Let's run this. And let's try clicking on one of these. Look at that, selecting checker, and there's nothing there. Okay. I am spitting out this event here that evidently gets passed in, but I'm not passing in what the checker is. Okay, and that's okay. Because to be honest, that's actually a little bit difficult. If you remember the way that we found the checkers, and here's, guys, when you're writing software, so often you won't know exactly how to do something or remember how to do it, but it's usually pretty easy to remember that you have done something like that in the past, right? We've added click handlers before, right? And we were able to say, change this checker from black to white to invisible, right? So let's go look at how we did that. Does that make sense? Like, don't try to remember or try to, freewheel it. Like, go back and find somewhere where you've done it before or somebody else who's done it before, right? And look at how they're doing it. So if we go back and look at this old toggle method, right? So let me actually copy that for a second. And I'm going to just roll this back to what it was so you guys can, I'm going to put this, underneath. All right. So you can see here, same thing. Remember, I didn't put those parentheses there, right? I just put the name of the method, and I'm not passing anything in. Instead, I find the checker by saying this thing, give me its first child. Okay? Yeah, the firstborn. Yeah. Well, this thing and this in this particular context, when I use that, this is sort of a magic word. It's basically give me a handle to the thing that I just clicked on. Okay? Or if this wasn't a click handler, maybe it was a hover, or there's lots of things that you guys do on the web right now, like, and you might hover over something and then it spits out, it shows you something, right? It would be the same thing. So whatever I just executed a method on, the click or the hover or the whatever it is, give me a handle to that thing. So in this case, what is $this? What is $this in this particular case? It is what?
Checker?
No. Be more specific. The black cell. Look, up here, guys. I say, give me all the black cells, and then add this method as their click handler. So this means I didn't click on a checker, I clicked on a black cell. My hover thingy might have been over a checker, and I'm thinking I'm clicking on a checker, but really what I'm clicking on is a black cell. Okay? So I clicked on the black cell, and that's why I say, give me this black cell's children. Give me your children.
You're taking its children.
Yeah. So give me its children. Now a black cell will only ever have one child. Okay. But this is just the way that you get to that first kid. Okay. So give me its children. Yep. They only has only children. And it only has only children. Yeah. Only children. There are lots of only children in the world.
You're taking its only child away.
Yes, I am. Well, I'm just getting a handle to it. I haven't decided what I'm going to do. I'm just getting a handle. I just want to put my hands on your kid. That's all. Like, you're in trouble. Yes, you can shake them. Like when a kid's running at the pool, you know, and their parents not doing anything about it. You just want to like reach over and grab them and give them a shake. Like,
I mean, you
Well,
are
the kids are
toggling
there.
them.
both.
You are toggling them.
Yeah. So don't run at the pool. All right. No. There's no like history there, guys. Like, I promise it doesn't bother me when kids run at the pool. All right. So this children gets me all of their children. So if there were a whole bunch of checkers in here, I would have a list of checkers, and then dot first gets me the first in that list. Okay. So this will always just be a list of 1. Okay. And then this will get me the first. Okay.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Why do we have to tell it to get the first child if there's only one child?
Because of what is returned. It's a good question. So let me just kind of mock it up in here. Okay. So if I had this div, and it has, I'm just going to give it an ID of the cell. Okay. So I got this div, and then I've got another div inside of it, and I'm going to give it an ID of the checker. Okay. And maybe that has stuff in it, maybe it doesn't. Okay. If I am clicking on the cell and I want the checker, when I call this dot children, what it's gonna children, yeah, that's how you say it in the South, children. When I call that, it's gonna return, and this is not like real code, guys. Okay, it's gonna return a list. Remember that array thing that I told you about? It's gonna return a list that has a another object in it. Okay, and I'll just draw it like this, div. This is like so not real code, okay? So, okay, so please don't ever write this. This is just for so you guys can get an idea. So I don't have, when I run this, you know, this .children, I don't have a child. I have a group of children. Even though the group only has 1, it's still a group. And so I have to interact with it like a group.
A group
Okay.
of 1.
Yeah, it's a group of 1. I know that's a
Me, myself, and me.
yeah. I know that's a little bit weird. I know that's a little bit weird, but you have to remember the way that computers think. Okay, they don't think of, you know, they're not smart enough to know that a group of 1 is really just one thing, you know. And so I have to say, because
Group. How does it
Yeah.
one?
I know. But let's say, and let's talk about arrays just for a second here. So let's say that I've got an array and it looks like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and maybe I have a number for n equals or gets 10. Okay, and let's var list. Okay, so let's say I wanted to, I said something like, and why don't I go do this in an actual JS file so it'll at least help me out with the syntax. If I said var sum gets n plus list, what would that do? What would I get back? 10 plus list? But what does it mean to add 10 to a list? To be honest, I'm not 100% sure. Okay? I have a feeling it'll be like, you know, and it won't do it. We can find out. This is one of the great things about the console. I can just go over here and type stuff in, var list, go back over here, copy my other code, oops, paste this in, all right, n gets that. Now let's see what happens when so sum, let's see what sum is. That's what I figured.
101.
Yeah. So it actually added the number 1 or the digit 1 and the digit 0 to the digit 1. Like it concatenated them. So adding 10 to the list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 gave me 101, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay?
As a string.
As a string, yeah. So yeah, all is a string. Exactly. It basically turned both of them into strings and just put them together. Okay. So JavaScript, like because that's the thing, it's a list. Okay, and it's the same thing if I had, let list get 1. Oh, okay. I just don't need to define it again. Gets 1. And n is already 10, right? If I was to add them together now, you would think that it would say 11, right? But if I say list plus n, I get, right? Or if I say n plus list, I get 101, right? Because it just depends on the order that I'm adding them together. But I'm just concatenating them because it doesn't know, because it's a list, right? But if I instead said n plus list, give me the first element in that list, I get 11. That makes sense? Okay. So that's the thing. When I call children, I get a list back. Okay? And then even though it only has one thing in it, it's still a list. Okay? And then I say, give me the first thing off that list, and then I can now I have a checker. Okay? And I can do whatever I need to do with it. Okay? So, in which case, let's go back to in here, right? This was getting the checker. And another reason why, like, you might forget why or how this works. That's okay. But when I assign it to a variable that has a very clear meaning, like checker, okay, let checker equal this.children.first, right? Once I've done that, if I was to ask you, what does that line do? You'd say, it gets the checker. I mean, it's pretty clear. That line gets the checker. Okay, and then later on, I'm doing checker.toggle, so on and so forth. Does that make sense? Okay, because I could have just done this.children.first.toggle. Right, I could have just, and that is valid JavaScript code, but it's also confusing. Does that make sense? Like everywhere that in this method, if I could actually replace checker with that, and then I save a whole line of code. But tell me, did I make it clearer or less clear what that's doing?
Probably less clear.
Yeah, absolutely. Does that make sense? You guys tracking me why that's less clear? Because, if I'm in there and I'm trying to read, if not this.children.first.is visible, switch color this.children.first. Right? But instead, if I just make that assignment early on, I say, hey, toggle the checker. If the checker is visible, switch the color of the checker. That's a lot more clear. You see? Okay? Those are the expressive decisions that you have to make when you're writing software that help you to write software with less errors, okay, and help you to find your errors more quickly when you do, not if, when you make them, okay? All right, we're going to go ahead and wrap up there for today. I know all we did was add these on the bottom, and we did add the click handler. So in template.js, I now have this select checker button. Okay. The next thing that we want to do is we want to, of course, assign. We want to be able to remember that I selected that checker. Okay. That's where we're going to go ahead, and actually, I'm going to go ahead and just add that. Okay. So selected checker is going to be, sorry, not select checker, but selected checker. Okay. Is going to be this checker, okay? And let me go back over here to, sorry, I'm in the wrong place. Steal some code from the toggle method.
You're stealing from it.
Yeah, I'm gonna borrow it. I'm gonna be inspired by it. It's not wrong to be inspired.
Did you ask its permission to borrow it?
To be inspired? I didn't ask its permission.
Sure.
So, all right, so there you go. So here, I took that one line of code that found the checker, right, and assigned it, and identified the checker, and then now my log statement should actually be printing out the checkers themselves, okay, and then here I'm going to say, what the selected checker is, okay. So let's see how that goes. Let me run it. All right. Oh, there's that random code that I added in the bottom there. Okay. Now if I click on one of these, it says selecting checker, and then if I take a look, it is a DOM element with a length of 1, and it's a div. Right? That's the right div, and I can click on it, and then I can see that that's the one that I selected. And if I click here, I can see that I'm getting the right one. Okay. Does that make sense? So that's actually working. Now that doesn't mean that we're done, okay? Obviously, because we really want to be able to not select the div, but what we want to interact with, we want to interact with the element in this array here. So we want to be able to select one of these guys, okay? Because then we'll be able to change it. So let's say we. I'll just give you a quick preview. Let's say checkers checkers number, I don't know, we'll say the third one, which will be this guy right here. 3 dot row gets, let's say 4. Okay. And his cell gets 1. And then I say render checkers. And hit enter. And nothing good happens. Well, the idea was something good was supposed to happen, but this is a live demo, so of course nothing good will happen. So it didn't do what I was supposed to do. We'll figure it out next time.
This is why you don't do live demos.
That's why you don't do live demos. Don't do live coding. It just makes you look stupid. But that's okay. Oh, that's the problem. Render checkers. There's a big difference between. There we go. Look. Now notice this one is still there because I didn't create anything that would get rid of it. Okay? So I moved it, and if I was to look at the list, but I didn't create anything to go clean up those old divs. So that's another thing we're gonna have to do is when we render the checker, we're gonna say clear the board and then put all the checkers back. Is how it's not gonna look like that, but could you imagine playing a checker game like I want to move from here to here? Like, all right, take everything off, put them all back on. But that's how this game will be played. Okay? Kind of crazy, huh? All right, hey, you guys have a great week.